Okay, when we left off last, we had this navigation, and we set that all up. Now we have to set up three things: the article, I mean the section, which these two children are in there, which is the article and the aside. So let's go ahead and get started. One of the problems we have is that, remember, globally, starting with body text align left. So in this case, we want, centered. And in this case, we want everything within the section to be left aligned. So we'll start with that. I'll go ahead and open up my styles.css, and then I'll do section. And then I'll say that I want the text align to be left. And that will overwrite the center. And we'll do file, save all, and then refresh. All right, so now everything is nicely left aligned. Okay, the next thing we want to do is put these side by side. And to do that, right now, these are both block level elements, both the article and the aside. And what we want to do is have them side by side. Now I can float them, float one to the left and one to the right, but we know that we have all sorts of problems with floats. So instead, we can do the same thing we did with the navigation up here and change these into inline block elements. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, we want to do it to both the article and the side, and since they'll be sharing more properties, we're just going to do both. So we're going to say section, article, comma, section, aside. And again, I want to be specific on the article and side, even though we only have one article on the side. So I'm not sure in the notes whether I had put it just as an article, comma, aside, but this is the proper way. You want to be specific in your selectors as much as possible. And we'll say display inline block. And we'll do file, save all, come back and refresh. And you can see there's some movement there, but not much. And the problem is that this here takes up that entire container because it has so much text in it. So since the text goes all the way across, that's why we didn't have to worry about that here, because there's only a word in each one of those elements. So they fit side by side. This doesn't. So what we have to do is we have to minimize the width of that. So we can do that using the inspector tool here. If I click into article and I go to element style, I could say width, I'm just going to do 800 pixels, see what that looks like. My screen's a little bit smaller. All right, so that's not going to work. But look what I can do. I can take that 800 pixels and click on it, and now I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard to make it smaller. And I need to make it smaller until both fit. Oh, there they go. So you can see that. Here we go. 7. There we go. 721, they fit. 722, they don't fit. Now they fit. And you can see that as I make the left one smaller, the other one moves over to it. So the thing is, I don't want to have it like this. I don't want to just try to guess. And the problem is, if I make this a specific width and then the windows get smaller, then that we're going to put scroll bars is going to be ugly. So what we want to do is we want to say, well, one of these is going to stay the same and one's going to adjust. And this side right here is the thing that's going to stay the same. So if I come up here and I click on a side, I can see that it's 146.19 through 316. So what I want to do is I want to just make this aside a static and say that make the rest that way. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, what's the number again? So 146. So let's just make it like 166. How's that? So let's go in here. And now these are going to be different. So we're going to do section, article. And then we're also going to have section, aside. Notice there's no comma, and that's because we're saying that the child. So no comma means this is a child of that. A comma means that these two are both going to be selected. So on the aside, I'm going to do a specific width, and I'm going to make that 166. That gives us an extra 10 pixels. Whoops, that's 166 pixels. Right. And the thing is, let's just go ahead and do it anyway. File, save all, and refresh, and we got problems. And that's because, again, now we don't have this. The article is now 100%. So what we want to do is we want to say, well, let's let the browser figure out how much space we need for this. And let's go in. Also, another thing we can see is that everything's right on top of each other. So let's go ahead and put some padding left in the section and in the side. So let's go ahead and put 10 pixels on both. So again, here we have display. So let's do padding. And let's do 0 up and down and 10 pixels left and right. File, save all, and refresh. All right, that doesn't do anything except move this over, and you can see now there's some space over there. Now let's go ahead and move them side by side. So for this article, I want to say that the width, calculate that. So I'm going to do calc, and then open and close parentheses. And in there, I'm going to say, let's just do, instead of doing 100% and try to make it very, very precise, I'm going to put some fudge in there, fudge room, and let's do calc. And, well, no, we did calc already. Let's just say measure 95% of the container and then subtract and let's go ahead and subtract then the aside. So let's do 166. Actually, is that what it was? Yeah, it was 166. I can see it right there. 166 pixels. File, save all, and refresh. Oh, okay, it didn't work. And so we need to have figure that, because it should 95% minus that. So we have some extra fudge room. Let's go into here. So if we increase the amount that was subtracted, it would make it smaller. So I'm going to see, so just a little bit. Let's try this. Let's go ahead and do this. And for both of these, I'm going to, no, right here. I'm going to say box sizing is going to be border box. And that should take care of the padding. So let's go File, Save All. Right now it's Content Box. And you can see now it fits. I haven't changed the numbers, but it fits now. And that's because we added padding to the aside, and that was taken in to, so what we did without doing box sizing is it said, oh, well, it's 166 plus whatever border plus whatever padding. When we do border box, we're saying 166. That's everything. And that's why it's a little bit, now it fits, whereas before it didn't. You also notice that it's even at the bottom, but not at the top. So we have to change that by saying that we want it aligned to the top of the box, not to the bottom of the box. We'll do that with vertical alignment. And again, we'll do that for both of them so that just in case they get off kilter, we won't have one to the top and one to the bottom. So we'll say the vertical line is to the top, not what it is right now. The default is baseline. And that means to the bottom. And refresh. Good. Now it's all to the top. Everything is looking pretty good. If we move in this side, we can see that it just adjusts nicely all the way in. So that's what we want. That's a nice flexible style. We haven't done any media queries, and yet that's working nicely for all the different sizes. Now we want to go ahead and put a border on the right-hand side. So again, that's to the article because that's mostly going to be the larger ones. So we'll do border, and we want it on the right. And border right, there it is. And we'll do 1 pixel solid black. And again, I could do RGB 000, but professional developers tend to just use this. Most borders are black. So if I was going to use a red border, I would put the RGB in. But since it's black, I just put it like that. And let's do File, Save All, and refresh. And you can see now that this is not going all the way to the bottom. It's going as big as this container is. So if this is taller than that, then we're going to have that height distance. So how do I fix that? Well, I didn't make it so that this side here at a minimum is the same as the right side. So let's go ahead and click on that again. If we click on the side, we can see the side is 134.5 in height. So which is actually a little bit different than the height we had in the lessons. And so sometimes you're chasing your tail. I'm using border box here, and I didn't use border box in the lesson. So there's like 1,000 correct ways. Well, not 1,000. There's probably dozens of correct ways and thousands of incorrect ways. But so I sometimes do a different way in the lesson than I do in the video. All right. And now what was I going to do? Oh, 334. So 334.5. So let's go ahead and make it 340, just for grins. And I'm going to say that, let's see, and I'm going to do that for the article because the aside always stays the same. So I'm going to say min height. Now I forgot what it was. Wasn't it 340? I do this all the time. 334, so we're going to make it 340. Good, I'm glad I looked. So 340 pixels. And we'll do File, Save All, and refresh. All right, so now it's going down to both no matter how this. And you can see that when we get smaller, that other one grows, see? Now, once it goes past, it'll actually grow because it's just a minimum minimum height. If it was just the height, then it'd be stuck and we'd end up with scroll bars. All right, next thing we want to do is the footer. The footer has the same properties as the nav as far as color. So let's go ahead and border. So let's go up to the nav. So all these properties are the same for both the nav and the footer. So I'm just going to add footer here. All right, and we'll do File, Save All, and refresh. And we also want it left aligned. Now, I could put it on section. So I'm going to do section. Why not? I didn't do this, so we'll do section footer. File, save all, and refresh. There. Now everything's absolutely perfect. That's exactly what. Now here in the class notes, I made a footer down here instead of using section footer. And I think that's probably better because it's only one property. Up here in the nav, there's 4 lines of properties, so I have to retype or copy and paste 4. The thing is, I might want to add some other properties to the footer. So I'm going to go ahead and give it its own selector and say text align left. File, save all, and refresh. So nothing changes. Everything's before, except putting it up here in section. Sometimes that is difficult for a person coming in behind you, trying to figure out where the heck did that footer stuff. I don't see anything for the footer. If you hide the footer properties within all these other ones. But like I said, I would think that this is a good use of using nav footer because we always it's doubtful that we would ever want to change that property and make footer unique. All right, and that's it for this lesson. On to the next.